All right, it's bear season. It's bear season 2024. The spring of 2024 bear season is in effect right now. There's people out there trying to find a bear. Black bear. Because, for some odd reason, you can't hunt grizzly bears in British Columbia anymore because the people in the city don't think it's right. Anyway, it's a different topic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw down on this channel, I'm going to start throwing down some hunt tips every couple days, all right? So I might even go intermittent hunt tips to hunt stories. Might even flip a coin, see which one goes down. But when I tell my hunting experiences, I usually throw down how and what went down in those stories too, so you can pull the tips from them as well, all right? Now, black bears, typically in British Columbia, black bears can be considered, well, from your experienced hunters, black bears are easy to hunt once you pick it up and once you pick it up. This is what is considered a very, very large black bear skull. This is what a lot of guys hope to acquire, which is a Boone and Crockett sized bear. Unfortunately, I feel the gauge for a Boone and Crockett sized bear goes by the size of their skull. I'm not a big skull guy. Big deal is a skull. That's a 21.5-inch skull right there, which your Boone and Crockett size is quite large. But I get my kicks out of an absolute monstrous hammer-sized gargantuan black bear. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have a big skull. A lot of bears are just big meatheads, meaning they got a decent mature skull in their noggin, but it's covered with a lot of meat. So it's basically going to be near impossible for you to field judge a bear skull on a live black bear. And if you can, well, you might be a little bit of a magician in a way. Anyway, what I hope to do by dropping these hints and tips is I hope to help you obviously become more of a more successful hunter, but at the same time to hopefully get you up to date on how to pass on younger animals and try to hold out for that mature bear. You're going to get more bang for your buck. You're going to get more meat, right? More fur, more hide, if that's what you want as well. If you're hoping to get a real cool rug, bear hide, bear rug, which will remind you of the hunt every time you look at it, maybe a great piece inside your house, as well as the most meat you can get off of that carcass. You're going to want to get the more mature animal. So it's early April right now. It's going to be, this is typically the most challenging time of the spring bear season to find a bear. It's going to be right now. It's early. They're not really running around yet. They're definitely not rutting yet. Okay? The sows and the cubs are definitely going to be a little shy, although there might be the odd one coming out and running around now, but typically they're going to be a little shy yet. So you're not going to be seeing too many of those in the beginning of the spring bear season, but you're going to see them. So, looking for that mature sized black bear. The best thing to do inland, I find, well, actually with most all hunting, but particularly with black bear hunting right now, is you want to situate yourself on a good, solid, high glassing point where you can use your binoculars and spotting scope and see and reach out to a long ways away. How long? I have sat in glassed slides waiting for a particular bear or any other huge bear to show up. I've spotted them a couple miles away. It's not hard in the springtime. They're jet black, right? And you got good optics, you're going to see them. Now, how do you know if a bear is worthy to go after once you've spotted that bear? Let me get to that point in a minute. So while you're glassing, you need to be able to sit there and not move. Just glass, and glass again for hours. That is the most productive way to find and harvest a big mature bear. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Lots of people drive around. It's fun to drive around. It's easy to drive around. Yes, you're going to see animals when you drive around. I've seen them. The mature boars, they know when you're coming, they can hear your vehicle, they duck off the road, they wait for you to drive by, they come back out, right? They know how to avoid human beings quite easily, especially this time of year. It's early, they're cagey, they're not dumb between the ears because they're not rutting yet, okay? Let's just say you're on flatter ground and you have nowhere to sit up high and glass at. And I've been in a few places like that where I can't glass. the area I'm hunting and I know there's bears there. And how I figured out there was bears there was either driving or hiking through, driving down an old deactivated road, quadding, or walking on an old deactivated road with lots of grass on it. The green shoots. The greener the better, early season. The place with the most green grass sprouting up, that's where you're going to find the most sign. So, if I'm traveling down a road, whether it be a quad or walking or driving, I'm taking note of the bear scat on the road. If there are one or more bears frequenting this one particular area, there's going to be a pile of bear scat every 5 yards, or even every 10 feet. It's going to be everywhere. And other times you go down a road, you're only going to see bear scat on the road. Every single road's going to have it on it. But sometimes you might just see a great big, huge, fresh pile of bear crap right there, and you're thinking, bingo, there's one right here. And you're going to keep looking around. There's no other piles of bear scat on that road. There might be another one 150, 200 yards down the road. So what that is telling you is they aren't frequenting that particular strip of road. They're not feeding on it. So that means if you spend a lot of time on that strip of road or open area, that meadow, and think you're going to wait for that bear to show up, you might be waiting days. Okay? If you're going to set up a thick brush where there's nowhere to glass from, you're going to at least have to have a lot of bear sightings with your eyeballs on that particular strip or that particular clear cut or that meadow or that back field. Whatever you do, whatever it is you're hunting, you need to see a lot of scat. And I'm talking, for me, in one particular small feeding zone, early season where everything's not green yet, I'm looking for at least 5, 6, 10 or more fresh to pretty fresh droppings in the same general zone within, I don't know, it could be 50 yards square, 100 yards square. I see that. This is a feeding spot, and this bear is feeding here, and he's liking it right here, and he's going to come back here. So now I know it's worthy of me to sit there and stay on this particular spot and watch it. And we're talking a spot where I can't glass to from way up above on a glassing knob. And now a glassing knob, for me to get back to the glassing knob, I'm talking all early season tips right now for black bears, all right? My glassing knobs, my favorite ones I've hunted in the past, have been up the other side of a valley, and I'm looking down below me. I'm looking across on the other side of the valley from me in slides and on old logging roads and clear cuts. And I got a huge, great big field of view going from maybe a mile and more that way to straight across the valley to a mile and more that way. That's what I'm talking for a glassing knob. Some of those distances might be too hard to get to if you spot a big bear from your glassing knob. Big deal. Watch them. They're not on the cruise yet. They're not rutting yet. They're going to be feeding nearby. Unless they just come out of the hole and came all the way down the side of the mountain and you watch them come down, they're just going to go disappear at the bottom of the valley. But unless they're doing that and you're sitting high up on that knob, what I've done, I'll sit, I'll watch, I'll see, I'll take note. Especially in the evening. If it's early in the morning, for sure, you're going to have time to pick your route, get over there, figure out which way the wind's going before you approach that road or that field or that meadow or that clear-cut corner where that bear's feeding. Figure out which way that wind's going and figure out your approach first. But if you're spotting that bear in the morning and he's feeding, you got a real good chance to hustle it to your vehicle or whatever you got and boogie over there and go put the move on him and tag him. Now, if it's late afternoon, I already know I'm more than likely I'm going to sit here until dark. I'm going to work my glasses until my eyes are bleeding. And finally, when you see that bear, I'm going to watch him. I'm going to take note of what time he hit that spot to start feeding. I'm going to take note where he came from and to enter that spot and which way he left from that spot. And I'm going to watch him. And I'm going to watch him as long as I can, or at least till dark. And then I'm going to go up there, depending on how big the bear is, but I'm going to go over there. I'm going to figure out which way the wind is going after the thermals change in the morning. Because I saw that bear from my glassing knob later in the day. So the thermals are already going uphill. Or crossing, going up on a 45. Either way, they're going up, they're not going down. Right? It's going to be important note to take, because if that bear is feeding late afternoon to evening, the wind is going to be going that way while he's doing it, and you need to take note of that wind for when you do your approach. If you go to that spot first thing in the morning, you saw that bear feeding in the afternoon, the wind's going to be going downhill. And you're not going to have a clue which way the wind was going later on in the day when that bear was there. So I might be babbling. Maybe I'm not. I'm all over the map. I don't write shit down and rehearse it. I'm talking to you all as though you were sitting across from me on the stump at the fire. Be sure of your wind direction before you go over there. And if you go over there and he's not there, don't go running all over the place, dropping your scent where he's feeding. If you can get to where you saw that bear, where you watched him the evening before, and you get there and you can see he's not there, don't go running up and down that road looking for him. Take note he's out there. Okay, back away. Don't drop your scent all over where he's feeding. If it's a big mature boar, he's going to be cagey to your scent. He's going to know better, and he's going to change up his actions. If it's a great big old mature boar, right? Or a genetically superior boar that knows what's up, he's going to know that you know, and he's going to go, whoops, somebody's on to me, time to change shit up, and that's all she wrote. Take note of that. Don't go dropping your scent all over the frickin' place where he's feeding. Okay? Now, as the bear season continues, the big boars are going to be looking to rut. So, they're not rutting yet, they won't be rutting yet, but take note that if you see a large bear following a smaller bear where you're glassing, it's a boar following a female every single time. Okay? Every single time. Now, if you see a large bear being followed by a smaller bear, it's a mom and a cub. Every time. Take note of that. And as long as you take note of it, remember that, you're going to save a lot of time in your travels. Okay? You're going to know you don't have to go ripping over there. So, what have we got so far? We've got glassing from a glassing knob, and how to look for sign worthy of hunting a spot when you're on the ground and there's no higher ground to spot from. So we got that covered. We got the droppings condensed in a small green area for feed. The size of the scat, right? It's big, makes sense, right? The bigger the bear, the bigger the shit. That's just the way it is. So take note of that. That's another clue that I look for while I'm investigating a popular spot for bears to feed. I'm looking around for that big, girthy turd compared to little squiggly, cheesy turds, right? Because a big bear does not pass small girth poops on the trail or where they're feeding. They just don't. So take note of that. If it's a big mature boar you're after and all you're finding is a bunch of sign droppings in this one feeding area, try to gauge what your average size of poop is, your smaller girth poop, and then all of a sudden the mac down, you're like, whoa, that come out of a big bear. It's worthy to hunt this bear. Right? Take note of that. Size of the scat, frequency of the scat in the feeding area. Very important for finding a bear and staying on a spot and not wasting your time this time of year. Wasting your time sucks. I hate wasting my time. Especially after being a professional guide for numerous years. There's nothing worse than sitting up somewhere and waiting for a bear with a ping hunter, and the bear you're wasting your time on is just a little teenage dink or less. It's like, oh God, what do we do that for? Right? Now, a lot of you guys will be going, I don't care, I just want my first bear. I get it. We all did, we all do. Totally understand. But what I'm sharing with you will help you ensure that you harvest a mature bear this year. Whether it's your first bear or just your second bear or whatever, it doesn't matter. This video is meant to help you recognize what may be the signs of a mature big bear that you are going to be way more excited to put that tag on, and you're going to get way more meat out of the deal. Now, a lot of guys are going to be going, I'm not a trophy hunter, I don't give a shit. Who said anything about trophy hunting? Nobody. The fact of the matter, and when people shoot, that's another topic there, when people say, well, you know, it's BC, British Columbia, you're allowed 2 bears, I just want to get that first meat bear out of the way. Small bears aren't meat bears. Small bears are not much meat bears. So, When people, I don't care, don't get offended. Trust me, I'm a professional hunter. I know. People only say, I just shot this for a meat bear or a meat deer because they didn't have the confidence to hold out or find a mature bear or deer. So they shot the younger animal with far less meat on it. So you're not being a meat hunter when you do that. You're being an inexperienced, impatient hunter with a lack of confidence. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all have to go through that stage of our hunting career. So don't be insulted. Just listen to what I got to say. Hold off. Spend your time. You're going to drive around looking for those feeding areas. Look for that girthy scat, girthy big scat, and look for more than a handful of it in one particular small zone. That's how you know you found where there's a big mature boar. Okay? Obviously a little cub scat, sow scat, there's no big boar there. Not yet anyway. All right, how long am I going to glass from my glassing knob? I am going to sit there, if I got the time, I'm going to sit there all day long until dark. But before I do commit to sitting all day until dark, I have already done my groundwork, my vehicle work even, and I've already checked all of those places in front of me to be certain there's bears frequenting them. Right? That's another thing too. You can. You can't just go out and throw down and start glassing from an unknown zone. But it is better to spend your first day, your first morning driving around, checking all the deactivated logging roads, checking the edges of the middle of the slashes, checking the trails that go into them, checking the scat, checking the green grass on the roads, on the shoulders, in the ditch, and looking for that scat first to make sure there's bears are out, make sure they're ripping around, and make sure they're feeding, and then look back and figure out that you do have a high spot that can see that spot, and that spot, and that spot, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one below it, and see as much ground as you can. Now you got confidence. Yes, there is bears feeding in front of me somewhere. If I sit there all day long, I'm going to see them. Right? You're going to see them. So, when you go in, once you have confirmed, if you don't have a glassing knob, if you're hunting ground that doesn't have a high point you can look down from, and you're stuck to hunting fairly level ground with no view, what you need to do is hike, walk, ride, drive, find that feeding spot with frequent piles of mature scat, figure out which way the wind's going, right? And look downwind, obviously, of that feeding zone and try to find the furthest place you can be and still have your eyes on that spot where that scat is, which is downwind from where the scat is. And you want to go as far as you can because you may not be certain yet which way that bear or the bears are coming from to feed there. They could be coming from the direction you are going to go downwind to glass that spot, right? So you really, really have to take note of which way the wind's going and just how far away you can situate yourself within eyesight of that feeding spot and hopefully not be too close. Because obviously if you're too close to that spot and you're sitting right there, well, you don't know it yet. That big boar might be coming from down the road behind you, but he's not going to come now because you are already upwind of him, right? And black bears, especially on the mainland British Columbia, black bears are more nervous on the mainland because there's grizzly bears there, and grizzly bears love to eat black bears, and wolves love to eat black bears. There's a shit pile of wolves running around British Columbia, so they're typically more nervous, right? The more nervous the bear, the longer the bear lives. Because he's smart, because he knows to go downwind of where he's feeding before he goes in there, on average. The smart ones, the big ones, right? Take note of that. What else can we cover right now? I think right now I'm just going to cover, because it's early season, is where to look, how long to look for, what to look for sign, where to position yourself, and to be certain that you know that a large bear following a smaller bear is always going to be a boar following a sow. That's important for right now. All right? There you go. I won't make these too long because I don't want to jam them up with too much knowledge But that should help you to get going. And don't forget, it's illegal to bait bears, but it's not illegal to hunt near where they're feeding or feeding on, right? So, I think that should suffice for now, and I'll come back in a couple more days, and I'll share some more tips on helping you find that mature bear and getting him down, whether it be a gun or bow, you get a tag on it. All right? I'll be back shortly.